Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS-inform. I'm your host, Bill Potter. We're honored to have in the studio a local author now who has published his second book, and that is Tom Birk, or Tommy Birk. Yes. We'll go through that name pronunciation here in a minute. Tom, welcome to the show.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Bill.
Now, you have published your second book, but you really are not an author by trade.
Well, it takes a long time to make a living by writing. Mm-hmm. And I hope to do that someday. And there are 300,000 novels published in America every year.
Really?
Yeah, most of them self-published. I was lucky enough to land a publisher, Calumet Editions, in Minneapolis. And they've taken my books, and now they are promoting the books. And they do it. What's happened in the book industry, Bill, in the last 10 years, it's been turned completely on its head. 10 years ago, 90% of the books that were sold were what I call hard copy, you know, one of these. And 10% were e-books, electronic books. You download them on your computer and read them from there.
Or Kindle, whatever. Mm-hmm.
It flip-flopped. Today, 90% of the books are bought online, e-book, and downloaded to Kindles, where you can read to Kindle. Mm-hmm. And maybe 10% now are hard copy that get sold. And so we've seen Barnes & Noble and some of these bookstores go out of business. If I had to file bankruptcy because they had too much inventory and suddenly nobody was buying it anymore.
Well, my kids make fun of me because I don't download music. I have to buy the CD. I have to possess it. Yes. I don't download a book. I have to possess it. Yes. But that's an old thing, I guess.
Well, I guess. But I think I tell you why I think we did this. And if you got to go back to our grandparents and great-grandparents. Mm-hmm. My grandparents, 4 of them, never ever got a driver's license. Okay? Now, that didn't mean they didn't drive. In those days, you could get away with it. Mm-hmm. And today, we were the generation that started computers. Mm-hmm. Had one on my desk in 1982, and probably one of the first lawyers in the state of Indiana to have a computer on my desk. And of course, now everything's computer. But we get to the point where we don't completely trust the technology. I feel that.
Right.
I want to know how it works because we don't completely trust it. And that's the same thing that our grandparents went through with automobiles. Mm-hmm. They didn't, a horse, they knew how a horse operated. But an automobile, they didn't completely trust it. They didn't know if it was going to hold up. You always knew your horse was going to hold up. They didn't know how to brake, didn't know how to accelerate, and how the engine worked and all this. And I think it's a parallel to us.
It is. There's a lot of parallels back there.
Yeah.
Now, your name is Birk to those of us in Du Bois County.
Yeah.
But Birk to those outside of Du Bois County.
Our last name is pronounced Birk, B-I-R-K. That's the German pronunciation, and that's what we've been known by. Mm-hmm. But even today in Du Bois County, a lot of people in Du Bois County they don't understand the Birk.
Yeah.
And so we had to anglicize it in a number of ways. I'm a lawyer, and I had to anglicize it there. Anglicize mean it's Birk. That's what I call it. And some people have a problem with it, Bill. They say, no, your last name's Birk. And okay, you can call me anything you want, but my pen name is Tommy Birk. Now, there's a history there. When I was young, as a kid, my name was Tommy.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And eventually that went away to Tom. When I got into law school, of all places, they started calling me Tommy again. And so in law school, I was Tommy with all my friends, even with some of the professors. And then, of course, for years, it went back to Tom. Well, I thought, you know what? I'm going to use that as a pen name, Tommy Birk. It's got a kind of a, I hope it does.
It's got a nice little roll to it.
A little bit of a roll to it.
Now, you, some years ago, published your first book,
yes,
Beneath the Rock, and
yes,
we did a show, as
yes,
a matter of fact,
we did.
then. Now you are out with your second book, and it's been out for some time.
Yes.
Let's talk about the book.
Well, first of all, I want to clarify something.
Yes.
I did publish the first edition of Beneath the Rock several years ago. Calumet Editions took the book, and they took it on because they read it and they liked it and so on. So we did a second edition. And the second edition of Beneath the Rock looks like this. The other one has a You know, the other one has roughly the same kind of page, cover, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But we published this one, republished it about a year ago. Not much has changed. I changed some names and so forth. But Zero God, we published, Calumet published it 2 months ago.
Okay.
In January. And once you get that book published, you feel a lot better. Except then you go into the anxiety of whether the book will work. Will it sell? Will people throw it away? Will they do all this kind of stuff?
Will they like it?
Yes.
Well, what is Zero God about?
Zero God is about a secretive organization. We call it the Foundation, located in Washington, D.C. And they are led by a religious zealot. Most of them are religious zealots. Mm-hmm. Okay. And their goal, after looking at the Bible and so on, their goal is that they take the position that God makes known his leaders on earth. And they do it with circular reasoning, but God makes known his leaders on earth. And man has no business interfering in that. Taking that a step further, they disdain democracy. They do not believe in democracy. They think democracy is an affront to God because then the people are choosing the leaders instead of God.
Okay.
It sounds a little out there, but to tell you the truth, there are powerful organizations just like that. And I wanted to bring that out. The book is it's a thriller suspense, and it's about a Manchurian candidate, a fellow named Lincoln Kincaid, who was a popular liberal governor of Indiana. Okay. And this foundation had put their hands on him when he was 18 and got him through military school and got him built up, got him choice assignments and all this kind of stuff. And, of course, had him in a position now to run as president. The problem is it was a secretive matter. Nobody knew about the foundation behind him. And, again, he appeared as a popular president. He was on a good liberal record. And, of course, he was well on his way to being elected until several characters in the book. Rhonda O'Malley is the investigative reporter. Her husband is Andy Balbach, who, of all things, is a lawyer. Incidentally, if I can back up here a minute, I invented a town in southwestern Du Bois County called Dubain.
Okay.
And
because this book is fiction.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh gosh,
yeah, okay,
yes.
Okay.
Well, if you look what's going on now, you start wondering if it's fiction.
Right.
But I invented the town Dubain, and it's got about 15,000 people in it, and it's got wood industries and all this kind of stuff. I also use other locations that people know, such as the town of Ferdinand.
Okay.
One of the main locations is PHL Rock, which is a real cliff formation here in Du Bois County. It's on one of our family farms, and it's been a landmark in Du Bois County for 200 years. But it's a real place, and I hesitate to tell people where it's at because then
Sure.
I'm afraid we'll go out and everybody will go out and try to look at it, and if they get permission, that's fine. But the first book, Beneath the Rock, the main setting was PHL Rock, and these were damaged war veterans. They came back from World War I and World War II, like my dad, and Vietnam, and they had they called it shell shock, then they called it war psychosis, and now today they call it by PTSD.
Yes.
And anyway, these people, these guys, were so damaged by their war mentally that they could not live with their families or among society because that's how bad they were. And so they all found PHL Rock and literally dug rooms underneath it, and that's where they lived. And then, of course, that story goes on. Mm-hmm. Zero God also uses PHL Rock as a main setting. And there are certain things that go on at PHL Rock that are rather unusual. How's that?
Okay.
The PHL Rock is, like I said, a cliff formation, but it's down by the Patoka River, and the railroad tracks are right across, and it's got its own cemetery where the veterans want themselves buried, and so on. But Zero God is about secretive government, and I want my books to say something, Bill. So many times you read a thrill, they don't say anything. I want mine to have a moral of the tale.
Okay.
Only I'm not Aesop, okay? But I want a moral of the tale. And a really good book is one where it changes the reader ever so slightly. You're a different person, slightly different person at the end of the book than you were at the beginning of the book. You know, if we go back and look at our favorite books, my favorite book of all time is To Kill a Mockingbird. I've probably read it 20 or 30 times, and I always get new stuff, new things from it every time I read it. Harper Lee, who wrote the book in 1959, actually died about 2 months ago. And of course, it became a famous movie, To Kill a Mockingbird. And that book changes you. Now, that was a different genre. A genre is, do you write a thriller? Do you write mysteries? Do you write young adult books? All these, they call it genre, G-E-N-R-E. And, you know, genre is not genre is not genre. You know, sometimes they get mixed up. Mm-hmm. But my genre is thriller, suspense. But even then, I try very hard to make the reader look at perhaps they're fiction, of course, but lots of times they reflect reality. And I wrote Zero God as a warning to the American people that this can happen to you. This can happen to America if Lincoln Kincaid gets elected president. The secret people behind him, of course, will control him, and they'll want to throw away democracy, do away with elections, and because God will choose the leaders, guess who the leaders will be? It'll be the foundation, because they think God chose them, okay? It would be basically a fascist dictatorship. That's what we would have. And there's nothing written in the stars or in the universe, Bill, that says it can never happen in America. It can, and it can happen easily because we have an open society. Secretive government is something that we think can't happen because we're so open. And right now, you know, we have revolutions in this country, except we call them elections. And of course, we're seeing it going on now. We fight it out in elections, which is where you're supposed to fight it out. Zero God would not fight it out in elections. He would get elected first. In other words, do what Hitler did. Use legal means to become the leader, and then once you're there, destroy all the legality. That's what this book is about. It's a warning to the American people that there is no rule that's going to save you. You vote for whom you want, and you elect who you want, and you deserve who you elect. That's our process. There's no, Americans got to pay attention. American citizenship isn't easy. America is not easy. I think America demands more from its citizens than any other nation on earth. I mean, we got to pay the taxes, and we've got to, you know, America's almost impossible to govern. We got one federal government, 50 state governments, and then thousands of local governments below that. And people sometimes get disgusted with the Congress and the president and so on because they can't seem to get anything done. Well, that happens. But America is almost impossible to govern, and quite frankly, that's the way we want it to be. Power spread out.
So when people read this book, we want them to know it's fiction. But
Yes.
it could happen. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Now,
They'll know it's fiction, I hope to God.
How do we get the book?
The book is up for sale in both what I call hard copy
Okay.
And electronic copy on, well, it's on Amazon, but it's on basically every online bookseller that you can find. Barnes and Noble, other foreign countries put it on their list, like the United Kingdom has it. Goodreads. I can't remember all of them, but all you got to do is Google it.
Google it and you can find
and
it.
you'll come up with all kinds of.
So is the book sold locally anywhere?
No.
Okay.
No. Now, of course, I got some in my office, and the Du Bois County Museum has copies of my first book,
Okay.
Beneath the Rock, and I suspect that they will also stock Zero God. We just haven't gotten that far yet.
Because the world has changed, as you spoke about earlier.
world is
Everybody
changing.
buys books now online
Yes.
and gets them electronically,
Yes.
90% of it.
The world is changing, and it's going faster and faster and faster.
So we need to, I guess if they're going to look for the book, type in Zero God.
Yes.
Or can they type in your name?
It would be
Either
better.
way,
Zero
do the-
God by
okay.
Tommy Birk. You can do either one. If you look up Tommy Birk, it'll come up. That and various other and sundry things. I ask people,
Might be best to do
don't
the
read and
title.
believe everything you find on Google about Tommy Birk. Okay, as an aside here, one of the most dangerous things you can do is go on and Google yourself, because you find out, oh my God, I'm here, I'm there, I'm all over. And then there's other people who got the same name. There aren't many Tom Birks in the country, but there are 6 or 7. And, I always say, be careful what you look for, because you might find it. You might find a horse thief back there in your family.
Well, if you want to enjoy a good book written by a local author, and you are from Jasper.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
born and raised in Jasper.
Born and raised in Jasper.
Lived here most of my life, except when I was in school, and then I worked for the government I was the general counsel for the Lottery Commission for about 2 years.
Well, thanks for coming in. And we need to have folks go out and look for the book, Zero God by Tommy Birk, or for those of us who can't seem to remember your name any other way than Birk, that's the way it will be.
Yeah.
Tommy, thank you so much for
Phil,
coming in.
thank you very much. I appreciate your having me on your show.
The book is out, Zero God by Tommy Birk. Look it up and buy the book through Amazon or somehow online. We appreciate you watching WJTS-Inform. Our guest has been Tom Birk, who is a local lawyer, but
Yes.
a local author now with his second book published. Thanks for watching. We are local people watching local people.
Thank you.